What's up, guys? Thank you for joining me today. We are talking about Enneagram Type 9, and we're going to be looking at the wings of Type 9 and talking about the difference between the 9-wing 1 and the 9-wing 8. Before we get into that, welcome to my channel. This is Dr. Tom LaHue, and we do studies on Enneagram here and try to help people understand more about themselves, their family members, their loved ones, and better relate to one another with compassion. In my description, you can find the information if you want to get in touch with me. I do Skype and FaceTime appointments with people all over the world. Just anything I can do to help you or encourage you. We all get stuck from time to time. So let's get started. The 9. I do have a 9 daughter, and she's, 18, almost 19, and is married. She's a solid young lady that, has a good head on her shoulders. She's a 9-wing 1. I have a son-in-law who's married to my other daughter who's an 8, and he's a 9-wing 8. And so I get to see, these two personalities lived out in front of me, and I do see some differences and some nuanced differences and a lot of similarities between them, as well as working with many 9s, and knowing a lot of 9s as well. Some of my best friends are 9s. 9 is called the peacemaker, the harmonizer, and in general, 9s go to sleep to their own needs and their own desires as a way of getting along with other people. It's as if, as a young person, they decided that, and of course it probably wasn't conscious, but they decided that to have their own desires and their own wants and their own needs and to vocalize those would create some kind of disharmony. And it was easier to just, go along with what other people wanted. It was easier to just adopt their views, their desires, their ideas, than to vocalize and verbalize their own. And so the 9, becomes the prototype, I guess, for all of us, that tendency in all of us to just hit cruise control, and just go with the flow and take the path of least resistance and get along with people. And, if you have your opinions and your views and you state those very strongly, and other people have their opinions and their views and they state those very strongly, there is the opportunity for there to be a disconnection in the relationship, because maybe we disagree and we decide that we, can't work together or get along together. So in order to deflect that kind of disharmony, in order to avoid that kind of disharmony, 9s adopt a strategy of minimizing their own beliefs, views, ideals, desires, wants, needs, and adopting the views and opinions and ideas and wants of others. And therefore it erases the opportunity for disharmony and creates peace. But it also erases, to some degree, the 9's own identity. And so you always have to ask, at what expense, to yourself are you trying to get along with other people? And I think when 9s realize this about themselves, it's a really eye-opening aha moment, because everybody gets along so well often with 9s. 9s are agreeable. It's in their personality structure to be agreeable, likable, easygoing, easy to get along with, harmonizing. And when 9s, and the people that love them realize, that the expense and the cost that this has, the price tag to being this agreeable and this nice, it can be a real what's the word I'm looking for, a moment that really is startling, when a 9 wakes up. They may not change, but just the realization that, that they've been really, quieting their own voice and quieting their own desires and And in order to get along, in a bid to get along with people, when they just realize that about themselves, it can be a real epiphany, a real eye-opening moment for them. And, with the hope that if they realize that about themselves, if you're a 9 or, you love somebody that's a 9, when they realize that about themselves, what they've been doing, hopefully it will encourage them. It will encourage you to, wake up and get in touch with your own wants and desires and feelings and emotions and dreams and plans, goals, and, let those things become more a part of yourself, and be able to state those out loud and realize that, you are a person with an opinion, and a person with desires and wants and dreams and needs, just like every other person. And your needs and desires and dreams are just as valuable and just as valid as everybody else's. And they should be stated, and they should be given, attention, and should be valued like anybody else's. So I wanted to, get into the wings, but anything else that I want to just say about 9s that might be helpful? Okay, the getting along with everybody, comes at a price. It's that accommodating yourself and avoiding conflict. 9s, especially 9-1s, hate conflict. Will do everything they can do to harmonize and move away from conflict. And that, goal to avoid conflict in order to achieve comfort can cause you to deafen your own inner voice, your inner voice that would guide you and direct you and tell you that this is the direction you want to go in, this is what you want to do, this is what you want to participate in, this is what you don't want to participate in. You have to deaden that voice and deafen that voice in order to, get along with people. And when you can learn to wake up to yourself and sort of get in touch with that internal guide and internal compass, and you can then balance a little bit better your own dreams and desires and support for others in their dreams and desires. So 9s are in the anger group with 8s and 1s, and 8s and 1s are more obvious about their anger. 8s are probably the most obvious, and they tend to just give back, what they're getting. And so if people leaning on an 8 leans back. The 1 is a little less obvious. Their anger often looks more like frustration or maybe resentment or maybe just, sort of a seething undercurrent of, things aren't fair. I have to carry all the weight while other people get to goof off. That sense of frustration. 1s want to keep a lid on their anger. It's not good to be angry, and 1s want to be good, okay? And then the 9, being in the middle of that group, tends to go to sleep to it. Just like the 3 goes to sleep to their feelings, they're in the feeling group. The 6 is in the thinking group, and the 6, in a sense, goes to sleep to their thinking. Now, I don't want to upset or offend any 6s, but what I mean is 6s, are very much thinkers, okay? But they're responding to fear. And if you can get them to come back to the present moment and think about, are you safe right now, and engage that thinking in right now thinking, then you can often talk a 6 out of their worry and desperation, because when they engage their thinking to the present moment, they realize, I'm okay. I don't need to maybe hit the panic button just yet. So 6s kind of go sleep to their thinking. 3s go to sleep to their feeling. Because 3s are in action and doing mode, and they want to achieve goals. But when you ask them how do they really feel about these goals they've accomplished, they may realize that they don't really care about all of these awards they've accumulated. They've just been in doing and action mode. And so that corresponds to the 9 being at the center of the doing mode, tends to go to sleep to what they ought to do for themselves, and they go to sleep to the anger. They want to get along with people. They recognize that, it's easier to just sort of calm yourself, quiet yourself, and let other people's agenda become your agenda, and then you can be at peace with people. And that becomes then your agenda. Your agenda then becomes harmonizing, blending in with others. I tend to think of nines as being kind of like the vanilla ice cream. Vanilla ice cream is a flavor, but it tends to blend with, every other flavor in a positive way. And it mellows out every other strong flavor. And that's exactly what nines do. They mellow out the environment. They mellow out, the workplace, the family. They bring a peaceful, calm, harmonizing quality to relationships. Okay. Easygoing, accommodating of others. When asked for their own opinion, they may hesitate and just, whatever, it's fine. I don't have a preference. I'm good with whatever. Nines don't like to tolerate conflict because it can lead to separation. And so there's that sense of fear, of separation. Like if I stand up and voice what I want and say what I want, then people might abandon me and might leave me and might withdraw from me. And so I go along with others in order to get along with others. So they sort of dial down the awareness of their own wants and needs. They dim themselves. They water down themselves. Now that's a very disconcerting thought, to think that you have a person in your life, or you are a person that waters down yourself or dims down yourself in order to not be a problem, in order to remove problems or the threat of problems or the potential for conflict. You've dialed down your identity. You've dialed down yourself. You've watered down your life. That's a lot to think about. That's a lot to take in. That you are living a watered down life. It's just something to think about. I didn't write this. This is coming straight out of, the books, the experts, okay? This is all coming straight out of the experts, all right? I've got a shelf filled with I think every book on the Enneagram, and I've read them all. And, and of course, trying to understand. And I don't mean to be offensive. I'm not trying to be offensive. I'm on your team. I'm on your side. I have nines that are very close to me. And I don't want them to live a watered down life. I want them to really get in touch with their dreams, desires, hopes, plans, and live those out. I want them to become and be all that they're created to be. So I'm not trying to, hurt or shame or frustrate anybody. I'm just trying to understand myself. Some of these nines in my life that have been such good friends and easy to get along with, I didn't necessarily think, at what expense to themselves are they being that agreeable. But, it really, really makes you stop and think and appreciate, this cost of blending in, this price of blending in. So nines tend to focus externally on what others want and what others want them to be, want them to believe, want them to act. And that much attention at keeping harmony with the group around you and the people around you causes them to take the focus of their attention away from their inner selves. So they're always looking externally as to what do I need to do or say or be in order to keep harmony in this group, or to regain harmony in this group. Or how can I help people that are at odds regain harmony in this group? That their attention is not on them inner self of, what do I want or what do I hope to achieve. It's kind of all sacrificed on that altar of harmony and peace. Nines focus easily on what's common, on the commonalities, on the community, and their agendas then fade into the background as the all powerful, all important agenda of keeping harmony with everybody and keeping harmony in the group becomes the most important agenda. Okay. Anything else? Okay. Well, I've got lots of other videos on, the paths of integration and disintegration. So let's go back to what this video is supposed to be about. 15 minutes in, the wings. Okay, so let's take the 9-8. Let's start there. The referee is what this one's called. The referee, or the advisor, I think is a good title as well. You've got the 9 mellow, peaceful, harmonizing, forget themselves, get along with everybody, but you mix that with what? A very strong, independent, powerful, dominating leader. 8, who's going to give back to you what you give to them. You push on an 8, they push back. You get in their lane, they get you out of their lane. Okay, so the 9-8 is called the referee. And I think that's a helpful term, because let me explain the concept a little bit. Harry Potter, I think, is a good example of a 9-8. He's got that 9 energy of just wanting, I'll live under the stairs, whatever I have to do. You don't have to recognize me. You don't have to celebrate my birthday. You don't have to, nobody has to care about me. I'm nobody. I'm nothing. I'll just live under the stairs. Whatever I got to do to keep peace and harmony in this bombastic, chaotic environment. I'm not a player. Okay, so a 9 doesn't feel like a player in the game. But notice that 8 energy on the side, right? That wing 8. That now when I see people, arguing or fighting or mistreating or abusing or oppressing some innocent person, that calm, peaceful person will engage. They wake up, blow the whistle, and say, stop, that's out of line. That's not appropriate. You're taking advantage of this other person. This needs to stop. This needs to change. And this quiet, reserved, peaceful person will step into life, blow the whistle, put an end to it, explode, okay? And then what? Once that's calmed down and once their harmony is regained and everybody is back in line, then that 9-8 will then back themselves back out of the game. They don't see themselves as a player maybe in the game, but there to keep harmony. And they'll use that 8 demonstrative energy, to accomplish that 9 goal of keeping harmony. So they'll step forward like an 8, bark, growl, holler, blow a whistle to keep the peace. But it's not necessarily like an 8 to get what I want. To move forward and get people out of my way. It's to get what I want. The 9, the peace and harmony. It's to restore peace and harmony to the group, or to restore peace and harmony, to the situation. And then once peace and harmony has been achieved, then that 9-8 will back themselves out and go back on, routine mode, go back on, cruise control, you might say. The 9-8, I think of a couple of good examples. If you like King of Queens, I love that show. Doug Heffernan, the main character, is a 9 wing 8. That's a good example. If you watch that show, you'll get a good idea of what a 9 wing 8 is like. I've got a bunch of other ones listed here. I don't know how accurate they are. Ronald Reagan, Kevin Costner, Whoopi Goldberg. I don't know. I haven't thought a lot about them. But let's see. They mix an agreeable ability to get along with others with strength. Okay? With strength and a little bit of dominance. So strength and confidence mixed with peace and harmony. That's what you get when you get a 9 wing 8. This person is probably a little bit more of a comfort seeker and can be a little bit more passionate about their comfort. So, you often talk about like 9s, if you get your order wrong at a restaurant, like you get your sandwich and the 9-8 is probably going to have a favorite sandwich that they like, and they find a lot of enjoyment in those simple pleasures. 9s find a lot of enjoyment in simple pleasures. I think particularly the 9-8 finds a lot of enjoyment in those simple comforts. And again, we could get into the reasons why, because when you die to your own life agenda, you can get and you're not passionate about like the important things of life. When you sort of go to sleep to that, then what takes its place is kind of the unimportant things of life. So now the way your sandwich is made becomes really important to you. Watching your favorite television shows and sitting in a comfortable chair. These things then take the place of what is most important to you. So that's something to think about. Maybe another video. But the I think this 9/8 is a lot more likely to sort of stand up for themselves and say, hey, I got to take this sandwich back because this has onions on it and I can't do onions. I think the 9/1 is going to have a lot harder time in, sort of speaking up for themselves and correcting someone and getting what they want communicated. The 9/8's going to have an easier time at that. Hold on just a minute. I got to take this sandwich back because the sandwich is the important thing, today in my life, and it's got to be done right. And I don't mind, but you'll see them do it not like an 8. An 8 wants to blame. Who's responsible for the 9/8 is going to take it back and I'm sorry, but I asked for no onions. Can you please take the onions off of this, or can I have a new sandwich? They're still going to be very harmonious and peaceful about it, but they're going to be more committed, I think, to getting what they want. More committed to getting their needs and desires vocalized than maybe the 9/1 would be. I think the 9/8 is probably going to be a little more extroverted. The tendency, I think, would be a little more extroverted than the 9-wing-1. They're going to be probably more comfortable being in big social environments, being with groups, having friends, cutting up, laughing. I think that they're going to care a lot about their immediate needs, their physical needs and wants, their comfort, like I said, and maybe having money in their wallet to attain those things. They're going to be sociable. They're going to enjoy socializing. There's a little bit of a lusty quality about the 9/8. Okay, remember the sin of the 9 is sloth. Okay, going to sleep to themselves and just going along with people. But then you blend that with the 8, that lusty side. Remember, lust is just people and things exist for my use and my pleasure. Okay, so this is where that 9/8 I think has that tendency to get lost in those simple comforts, lost in pleasure, lost in comforting routines. When you have a routine, you don't have to engage your mind. You can just go into action mode. And remember, 9s kind of live in a cruise control if they're not careful. They kind of live in inertia. And routines allow you to stay in that cruise control without having to engage the mind, without having to set your agenda, without having to think through what you want. You can just move without thinking. And 9s can get kind of lost in that moving without thinking. And it can be very disrupting to a 9 when you try to change them. The 9/8 is going to react against somebody trying to change them. You'll see this peace-loving, harmonious 9 just moving through life like there's nothing wrong. But then when you start putting pressure on them to change, when you start, raising your expectations, and did you get that paper filed, and did you get the car taken to the shop, and did you pick up the supplies for the pool, and I need you to go to the grocery, and I need you to pick up these items, you'll see that 9 you'll see the anger of the 9 start to come out because they don't like to be pushed. They don't like change. They don't like to have their agendas, disturbed, and they don't like to be disturbed. Okay, so you'll see that anger side of them, and 9/8's probably a lot more likely to express that anger, but then to quickly, as soon as possible, get back to harmony. I've read that 9/8s, I don't know this one for a fact, but I've read that 9/8s, can blacklist you like maybe an 8 would. If you get on their bad side and you create disharmony in their life and they mark you as sort of like a person that they don't, you get on their bad side and their anger explodes at you, they might blacklist you and then be peaceful and kind around you, but forever they're kind of done with you. I don't know if that's true or not. I read it. Don't know. I can't say that one for a fact. But 9/8s have a strong cooperative approach, but can explode with anger when they're pushed. I think Clint Eastwood, I'm going to write him down because I don't know for sure, but I'd have to verify that. But his characters, His characters in the old westerns is a great example of what 9/8s look like. Okay, think of all those, hang 'em high, a few dollars more, a fistful of dollars, all of those movies. That's 9/8s. Okay, that is what a 9-wing-8 looks like. He rides into town, and every movie is basically the same plot. And this explains 9/8s. Okay, he rides into town, and he doesn't really want to interact with anybody. 9s are in a withdrawn state with 5s and 4s. He just rides in and wants to keep a low profile. Doesn't want any problems. Doesn't look for any problems. He just literally wants to go to the bar and get a drink. And, he sits at the bar with his drink in his hand, and then in comes a bully. Okay? The town bully that's keeping the whole town oppressed, who is, victimizing the women, smacking around the shopkeepers. This bully comes into the bar and picks a fight with Clint Eastwood, with the man with no name. I can't call him anything because he's literally the man with no name. That's 9 stuff, guys. Think about that. I just got to pause for a minute. Just let that sink in for a second. Clint Eastwood in those movies is called the man with no name. That's 9 stuff. Do you see how 9s lose themselves? They're the star in their own life, but they're the man with no name. Okay. It hurts my heart. Okay. Help is here, though. Help is here. All right. Let's stick with it. I'm sticking with you. Let's do this together. Let's get through this together. Okay. Let me support you. I'm not a 7. I'm not a 6. I'm a 7 with a wing 6. So I can be a little supportive. Let me support you with my 6ness. Okay. The man with no name. That's the 9. Okay. So he's sitting at the bar drinking his drink, and the bullies come in and start picking a fight. And he tries to just ignore it. He tries to not get involved. This isn't his town. He tries to but then they push him to the point that he can't take it. Maybe they even try to hang him, They take him out to the road, they beat him up, and they push him beyond his limits. And what does he do? He slides over into that 8 for a minute and, shoots them all. Has a showdown with them. And then after, the referee blows his whistle and brings harmony back to the town, he rides away and leaves and, is gone. That is 9/8 stuff. Okay. Just trying to get along with people, just wanting my simple comfort. It's been hot out there in the desert. I'm thirsty. I want a drink. I want this simple pleasure. I want to be left alone. I'm not trying to cause any problems. And then the problem comes to you and you can't avoid it. And so the 9-wing-8 explodes on that problem, eliminates it, and then peace is restored. Harmony is restored to the village. And the 9/8 takes themselves out of the game again because they're not really a player in the game. That is a picture of 9/8ness. Okay. If you are a 9/8, go watch some of those movies. Go watch some of those. Just go on Amazon and rent them, or some server and rent those movies, and you will see what 9/8 looks like. They can be stubborn and defensive. They want to move away from conflict. They want to get back to harmony as soon as possible. They can have a lusty side to them where things exist for my comfort and pleasure. They can be more sensual than the 9/1. They find comfort in routines. They can have a bad temper. Especially anything that threatens to knock them off course, anything that gets in their way, anything that gets in their life and antagonizes them, like the bully in the bar, antagonizes them, they're going to feel an initiation or a response to explode on that and be more blunt and direct and straightforward than the 9-wing-1. But they want to return to that place of calm placidity. Okay, so now let's talk about the 9-wing-1. Oh, the 9-wing one, the dreamer. That sounds great, doesn't it? The dreamer. Doesn't that sound wonderful? Walt Disney is a 9-wing one. Norman Rockwell, the painter, is a 9-wing one. Some of my favorites, Bob Ross, the painter, Happy Trees, Happy Trees. John Denver is a 9-wing one. Some people think Abraham Lincoln was a 9-wing one. The 9-wing one has, look at the two things going on here. The peacemaker, the harmony, the I forget myself, and then the one, be responsible, do the right thing, be a good person. Don't let your anger get the best of you. Keep a lid on all that. And so this dreamer term, what does it mean? Well, being a dreamer can be a good thing. Believe me, I'm a 7. I'm a dreamer. I get it. Okay. My subtype as a 7 is the, what's the word? I forgot the word. The visionary. Okay. That's a dreamer. All right. A visionary. Back to the 9. Stay on task, 7. Stay on task. Okay. So the dreamer has a negative connotation too. Before we get into all the positives, think about the negative. Dreamers are not the same thing as doers. There you go. Because you're in the withdrawn state, and even though you're in the action group, it can be hard for 9s to get motivated into actually taking action, because when you take action, you create disharmony. Anytime you take action, you're going to change things, and that's going to create disharmony and upset the equilibrium. And so as long as you keep it in the dream state, nobody's upset. So 9-wing ones, and all 9s have that challenge of taking their ideas and putting them into action, actually taking action and stepping forward and saying out loud, this is what I want. This is what I'm going to do. This is the deadline. I'm sorry if that upsets you, but this is what I want for my life, and this is the direction I'm going in, and this is what I want to do and be. See, that moves you out of the dream mode into action mode. So there is a negative, connotation to being a dreamer. It's not the same thing as being a doer. Thank God that guys like Disney, could take their dreams and move them into action. That's when 9s go to 3, right? When they take action, when they become assertive. That's when they go to health. So the 9-wing one could be described as more introverted, perhaps, probably typically, because 1s are more introverted than 8s. 1s are compliance and 8s are assertives. So the 9-wing 8 is going to be more extroverted, typically more assertive, especially in voicing their needs, wants, and opinions, and giving it back to you than a 9-wing 1. The 9-wing 1 is probably going to be more responsible, more careful in what they say, more detached, more conservative in dress and in conversation, more peaceful, more good, less lusty, than a 9-wing 8. More good behavior. I don't mean good like a good person. I just mean more focused on being good behavior and conservative behavior. Careful, more thoughtful, more idealistic. The 1-wing 9 is called the idealist, right? There's a way things ought to be done. Well, that 9-wing 1 is really close to that, so there's a way things ought to be done. They're going to have that idealistic nature about them. And they want to contribute to that ideal world by being a peacemaker and a negotiator. And by the way, on the 9-wing 8, I forgot to mention advisor. Advisors is like a referee. They know what ought to be done, but they themselves, I'm not a player. I don't work here. I just give advice. So the advisor, that aspect, I just thought of that. Back to the 9-wing 1. I contribute to the ideal world by making peace and bringing harmony with me wherever I go. 9-wing 1s tend to be, can be fusion or merging ones, or merging 9s, not ones, merging 9s. They tend to, what do I have to do to identify with and get along with people and be a good help to those people, and can even fuse with nature. John Denver, his songs, I love them, but his songs are just kind of like everything's fine. and I get lost in mountains and streams and rivers. And one of my favorite songs, Annie's song, is about how he basically loses himself, and his senses are full with someone else. And, come, let me look in your eyes, let me see myself in your eyes, is another one of his songs, where the 9 literally does get lost in the eyes of another person. They need to look into your eyes to see themselves, to find themselves. 9s lose themselves, right? And they can have their senses filled with nature, with experiences, with fusing with others, and finding themselves in others or in other people. Okay. And can get lost in just their appreciation for the world as it is. Guitars, with the rocks, with the streams, with the birds, the flowers and the children are my brothers, and my sisters. Just that sense of like being at peace with the world. I think Jack Johnson's another one. I don't know his music as well, but that just banana pancakes, that's all we need. Life is okay with just those simple pleasures. 9-1s can be very creative. They can be artists. They are very mystical. They can get lost in beauty and art and in clean things and pretty things and simple things. And they can be good teachers. I mean, a 1 is a teacher. A 1-wing 2 particularly is a teacher. And that 9-1. Now remember, 9's speaking style is the saga. So every detail, is going to get talked about. And so sometimes they can lose people when they are telling long stories because they include so many details, because they want you to have the full perspective. 9s have the full perspective. They see everybody's side and everybody's viewpoint. And so when they tell a story, that comes out in the way they talk, is they want you to know every detail, every little tidbit of information, because if you understood it, then you would understood why they came to the conclusion they came to, why they made the decision they made, why they've postponed their date, or why they've decided to quit this job and go to a new one. They want to include every detail so that you can get a full perspective and fully understand. And sometimes that can come across as they're not getting to the point, because most of us just want a conversation that gets to the point, or as a 7 gets to a punchline. And they don't. They have sort of a longer, drawn out, detailed speaking style. And a lot of times they just go quiet because they know they don't want to irritate people with their saga. They've gotten the cues over time that their telling of stories, exasperates people, and so they just kind of go quiet. Another way of dying to themselves. 9-wing 1s synthesize information, can be organized, dependable. They repress their anger more than the 9-8, where the 9-8 might blow, and then bring it back to a calm. The 9-wing 1 is probably going to be a lot more passive aggressive. Not that the 9-8 can be passive aggressive too. Stubborn. Okay. But the 9-wing 1 is probably going to try harder to keep a lid on that anger, and it come more natural for them to keep a lid on that anger. And, when you don't let anger out, it leaks out. Okay. When you don't let it out, it'll leak out. And that's passive aggressive anger. So a word of warning about 9-1s. 9-1s can sort of operate with this peace no matter what, which could allow them to be victimized, abused, neglected, mistreated. And the 9-wing 1 is more likely to go along with that and to be an abused person in a relationship. And if you are, you need to wake up and get yourself out of that relationship and, call the authorities if need be, but stand up for yourself and say, this is not right. And the 9-wing 1, I think, could become a codependent person in an abusive relationship, because they really want to operate with harmony no matter what, peace no matter what. And in order to keep that harmony, might ignore anything that disrupts that harmony, including their own abuse, and go to sleep to their own, warning signals or their warning signs against that abuse. Nine-wing ones could make good therapists, counselors, ministers, because they can be non-judgmental. They can just listen to people, take in all the information, and understand, that person's perspective. They're very friendly, reassuring. They are good at nonverbal forms of communication, like art and music and dance and, sports, working with animals and nature, painting. A lot of these artists, a lot of musicians and artists, and not just fours. Fours aren't the only ones. Nine-wing ones, the dreamer, can make a really good artist as well. They want their external order as a way of giving order to their internal world. Okay, so they like beauty and they like things being put away and they like things looking nice because in a sense, when you are not paying attention to your internal world, then your focus is on your external world. And if I can't keep my internal world in order, I can keep my external world in order. And keeping order is what ones do. They order things. They perfect things. They restore things. They clean things. And so the nine-wing one might have some of that, but don't do it to the neglect of your internal life. Okay, you need to organize your internal life, your internal goals and ideas and wants and desires as well. So don't just clean up the shelves and get the shoes all looking nice, put on the right rack, and all the clothes hanging up and, all your pretty little bottles on your counter. Okay, you need to do that internally as well. There's some dust and cobwebs in your internal life that need to be given some attention as well. Nines can get caught up in non-essential activities, like that, like I said, the routines, but also just doing jobs that don't really need to be done while they are avoiding the things in life that need to be done. And because if I show up to the things that need to be done, well, then I'd be giving away my agenda, and I would have to break out of my routine, and I would have to make my wants and desires known, and that seems aggressive to nines. And so nines can avoid the tasks that need attention while they busy themselves in the things that don't really need attention. So if you're a nine, wake up to that. Here's what I would ask a nine. What in your life are you avoiding right now? Okay, what task, what job, what conversation, what item on the agenda are you avoiding right now? I see the list of all that you did. Wow, you did a lot of things today. That's really great. What are you avoiding? What are you putting off? What do you not want to deal with? Now I would challenge you to go do that thing you're avoiding. Okay? That would be what I would say to a nine. They can be a little less adventurous than the type 9-8 and be focused a little bit more on being respectable, perfectionistic, prim and proper, prudish maybe a little bit, and keeping peace with others, like things organized, dependable. They repress their anger. They're good at synthesizing information. They like order. They have a good sense of purpose. Okay, I think I've pretty well covered it. As always, guys, be present to life. Nines, where do I start? Be present to life. Where do I start? I'm not even going to get into it. I already spent 40 minutes talking about it. If I can help you in any way, contact me. My information is right there in the description. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you stuck with it all the way through this, I hope it helps. I wish you peace and blessings on your journey. And I'll see you guys next time. Thanks. Bye.